March returns. What is most expected for the month of March as far as historical data and statistics do go? And how does that fit into the overall picture? In fact, when I did this analysis this morning, it was actually quite enlightening as to the more long-term picture for Bitcoin here, at least the more long-term likely picture, I should say. And without further ado, we can just jump right into this one as I get into the chart view over here. By the way, major thank you for all of the feedback yesterday as to the video sound quality, because I didn't realize it's so damn low. I think it is going to be better now, but let me know yet again if it is an issue. And I do recognize that also my damn face is not in the corner as it should be. There we go. Okay, beautiful. All right. Anyways, first things first. So March throughout the history of Bitcoin has actually been a wash in terms of whether it closed positive or negative. Out of 14 full Marches in Bitcoin's history, 7 have closed positive, 7 have closed negative. But when we actually go into the data and get a little bit more granular with it, there does seem to be a pretty interesting and obvious sort of interplay with March that I really think helps fit into the overall picture, especially for this particular March. So I'll show you the data over here. And you can see that out of all Marches, again, 7 did close positively. The average return for the positive months was actually quite high, but it was really being dragged up, at least in my opinion, by this massive outlier that we saw on the 4th March in Bitcoin's history at 178%. So the average return with that included was 36.74. If we just get rid of that one, it's 1308. And I think that's actually a little bit more of an accurate look on this one, especially when you compare it to the average loss percentage at 14.64%, losing on average, with a standard deviation of 10 and a standard deviation of 11.11 over here. So, it's very even keeled, but when we go into the data, we recognize, or at least I would say that what is most important to be kind of gleaned from this is that March is a month that traditionally doesn't do all that much. It traditionally doesn't do all that much. It's a pretty damn boring month. And in this case over here, just staring at the chart on all these green vertical bars, which represent those past Marches in Bitcoin's history, we can see very, very quickly that March is, it's kind of a low volatility month. In fact, it's one of the most low volatility months in Bitcoin's history. Yeah, there are a few major moves here and there, obviously, and most notably would be March 2020. But even then, on a closing basis, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad. It was realistically what? It was it was 20% loss. Okay, bad, definitely. But as far as the closure goes, it did bring things back into range essentially. And then, of course, the only other March that had a major loss was this one over here in March 2018. Other than that, everything is, pretty low in, for Bitcoin standards. And I think that plays into an overall view that Bitcoin is most likely to range throughout the month of March, which, as we've been saying over this past week, sideways is going to be very not beneficial is the right word, although it is beneficial, but is going to favor the BULAs long term. So if we do put these numbers into perspective, again, looking at the average return on the positive side at 13 and that on the negative side at 14.5, let's just see what kind of a likely range would be, assuming that Bitcoin closes basically more or less kind of where we're at as of right now. So to the downside, 10 or 14% off of current price action would put Bitcoin in the mid 40s, about 44,000. I do think that would actually be maybe a little bit deeper than probably what I'm looking for. And then, of course, to the upside, that would put Bitcoin actually at around $58,000. So, do we get big wicks on both sides? Maybe. Relatively big wicks for what the month actually does. Maybe. But ultimately, I'm looking for March to be something like this. And I'll explain why in a second here. But March 2012. March 2016, March 2020, a little bit more of a bigger one, but especially the prior two, very much on the muted side in terms of in terms of open to close. So what does that mean? Probably a pretty damn low volatile month. And what do these all have in common? These are all, election years, and we are in an election year as well in the year of 2024. So, this one over here, a bit of a black swan. So you kind of have to omit that, or at least I think that it'd be wise kind of omit that as a bit of an outlier. And, what are we likely looking at? We're likely looking at, probably, in my opinion, I think to the downside, maybe maximum you see is going to be mid 48. And to the upside, maybe maximum you see is going to be maybe a try towards like 53.5, 54, something like that. And then it's not going to do all that much, which, like I said, long term, not in March, but long term is going to favor the BULAs. Sideways here is going to be considered good. As you can also see within these election years, if we're just looking at, again, 2012 over here, actually I'll mark them off with a red marker. Here we go. Boom. 2016 and 2020. What happened soon after that in the following months? Sideways, sideways, sideways. Boom! Massive girthy green dildos. Sideways. Boom! Massive green girthy dildos. Sideways, sideways, sideways. And green dildos to the face. Or cyan dildos to the face. So in this case over here, I think that we're probably looking at something similar. Which does mean that for a lot of people looking for new all-time highs before halving, I think it's probably not going to be that, but it's probably going to be maybe close to that by the time April rolls around, as that is when the halving is. Bitcoin probably stares up its way a little bit higher. Maybe it's testing around, on a closing basis, the prior all-time high, which, would be very low 60s. I think that would be maybe a reasonable take. But again, March, probably going to be boring. If you do say that it is boring, or sorry, if it quite literally is boring, then I think that does set up, obviously, for a nice rest of the year. As you can see from these past iterations over here, specifically, Bitcoin liked to trade kind of sideways and up from there. It wasn't like the really exciting portion of the cycle, as we went over in yesterday's video from just the view count on this channel. I think that's just, we're not in that space just yet. It's still some time to go. I'll say the infamous words, it's kind of early as of right now. At least from that perspective. And I'd say that this kind of further strengthens that case. So, as of right now, I think there's two big camps that people are in. The two big camps is, one, Bitcoin's going to blast through prior all-time highs like next month, March. And other people are looking for a big, crumbling of price action right here as well, back down to like maybe low 40s. I think both of these are going to be wrong. I think that March is going to be boring. I think that things are going to get, pretty fucking boring during that time, because keep in mind, Bitcoin's been vertical. It's been fucking vertical and quite volatile, let's say, as well, since basically September, October to where we're at right now. Playing out a month of sideways is not that crazy. Even on this month over here, which did close basically around the open in January, there was a big wick to the upside and a big wick to the downside. It was a volatile month, to be fair. So doing something like this for March, and then perhaps continuing the rally in like April, May, that would kind of make a lot more sense to me. And playing to the long-term picture here that we've been espousing on this channel for quite some time now. So while I have been saying over this past week that, it's kind of a time to be defensive as a trader for a potential downside move, I think that is going to be less, I don't think it's going to be, I think it's less likely to be like a major downside move. I think, maybe down to like just below $49,000 is certainly very possible. Doesn't really do anything for the long term. Even 45 is quite possible, but I think getting to low 40s is going to be unlikely. Just as, trading up north of, let's say, anywhere above, especially like $55,000 is going to be pretty damn unlikely as well, especially on a closing basis. So that's essentially what I'm looking for. And moving on to the next chart, yesterday we were looking at the daily HPDR bands, and we were saying that, hey, in the short term on the weekend, there is likely a bounce incoming. We also saw a regular hidden bullish divergence on the 4-hour time frame. But in this case, I think this chart actually does a little bit of a better job, as we saw declining volatility with the HPDRV and Bitcoin essentially bouncing off of the low side of the 50% range lows. So whenever I see something like that, with volatility decreasing, I want to see a move basically back somewhere closer towards the median. And thus far, Bitcoin has had a high of the day at 51,900. The current median is 52,450. So, maybe we see a little bit of extension on this. These are like, quite small numbers in the grand scheme of things, but I did tweet out a MetaSignals setup earlier today. Actually, I'll bring it up over here because I just recognized that it actually called kind of the same move coming off of yesterday's low. it's interesting to see people actually like start to finally catch on to this a little bit more now. This was essentially a real-time free signal over here, and you can see that's called it at 50,800. That's kind of about where we looked at yesterday's video. It already hit target 1, which I believe his probabilities on that are very high. Yeah, 82.5%. Target 2 has about a 54.5% probability, and that is at 52,300. So very, very close to this level right here. So I do think that maybe there's a little bit more on the short-term move. Maybe it leads the way for this next week to maybe have maybe a slight pullback. But ultimately, these are just very small range plays, I do believe. On top of that, we got a new 5-day closure. There's not really much to update here, except for that the momentum pivot is basically the same as the last period at 45,700. It is getting quite high yet again. It's too damn high, perhaps, you might be saying. And these areas actually have marked local tops in the past year. So I would be cognizant of that. Local tops doesn't necessarily mean that it has to, come cratering down from here. But I do think that, again, a period of prolonged sideways is very fucking likely, very, very likely. And that pullback could, maybe come down, like I said, just below $49,000 very easily. But that doesn't really do anything for the long term. And I think it sets up Bitcoin, not necessarily for March, but for probably like May, June region. Anyways, do I want to talk about this over here? I'm working on an upgrade for the Jewel Light. It's not ready just yet, but I think it's almost there. It's fucking cool. It's fucking cool, as you can see in the P&L graph. Oh, actually, you can't see the P&L graph down there. Let me show you really quickly. Hey, damn it, looks absolutely silly right there. Okay, what the actual? Oh, you can't see the right-hand side. That's what's going on here. Oh, damn, I'd probably done goof this whole thing, huh? All right, well, fuck it. Well, fuck it. Maybe I can just scroll back this way. There we go. Yeah. All right, I'll have to fix that. Again, a little bit of growing pains as I set up this new computer and get everything ready to go. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So, fair enough. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. Again, the full picture kind of coming a little bit more into focus here. And yeah, get ready for things to get more boring. But if you want to be bullish, that's probably a good thing. Maybe probably gonna be an opportunity with like a slight pullback at least. I'd say maybe down towards like 49, but to open up maybe March. But long term, not bad. Not bad, or at least the setup is there. So I am going to end things on that note. As always, I want to once again remind you that if you do find this content valuable or useful, or if you just happen to give a fuck, please do consider liking and subscribing. It does massively help out the channel. We're very close now to almost 189,000 subscribers. Fucking crazy, man. Talking about dildos on the internet. So I'll sign off on that note. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care. Much love. See you hopefully tomorrow.